Hi guys, Justin Berta, the Tattooed Business Doc. Now we're going to talk SARS. And I want everyone to listen quite clearly here. It's time to put your big boys panties on. Boys, girls, you best get your Oma's bloomers out because you're going to need it. SARS has got in their arsenal. I mean, I've spoken about this. The tax laws in South Africa is extremely draconian. You're on the back foot constantly with SARS. And yes, we have some very interesting characters at SARS, which is at the helm and working in SARS, and the application of the laws sometimes are just weird and wonderfuls. But you know what? I'll speak about the law and not how it is applied. There's a law, unfortunately, called the Tax Administrations Act, and it says that, well, it comes also from the Companies Act, where directors and shareholders is jointly and severally liable for the debts of the business. Now, not a lot of people use that legislation because it's very expensive to take to court, and it's a high court application to bind directors and shareholders to the debts of the company. Plus, you've got to prove that there was mismanagement in some form or way. Now, the Tax Administration Act has got the same provisions. Now, SARS may, under the Tax Administration Act, hold the directors or the managers or the people in charge liable for tax debt of the business in your personal capacity. Now, they don't necessarily have to run to the court. Unfortunately, it's one of their administrative functions. The one thing that is kind of against them is that it is a form of administrative punishment type scenario. So you can take it to court and fight it in court. And it's difficult to explain this, but let's just put it this way. Pay as you earn is trust money. That's actually your full payroll. The amount you should have in your head is the gross amount. The gross, not your net, the gross. Then you take taxes, and then you take UIF, and that gets paid over, and the other half that goes to the bargaining council goes to the bargaining council. Okay, so that's not trust money. That's what the bargaining council slaps people with interest from United Kingdom come. Same with SARS in terms of pay as you earn and UIF and SDL. Because that's not your money to start off with, but a lot of people use it for cash flow reasons and all those kind of things, and they do get into that. I mean, I know a lot. Okay, so, but the problem that we have now is that SARS is using the legislation in terms of holding directors and shareholders personally liable, and they don't have to run to court. Not necessarily. And they have been using it, and to not the best outcomes, but they are. The same with VAT. VAT is trust money, and that money belongs to the state. It's a calculation. Output, that's the VAT on sales. Input, the VAT on purchases. Output less input, that's what you pay to SARS. That's the government's money. And a lot of people have got this terrible misconception to think that's their money. That's the money that has to float the boat. And it's not. You know what, guys? You are taking a very big risk right now. I cannot even begin to describe how big that risk is. Because if everything else fails, you will be held liable by SARS. And they don't need to prove mismanagement. Because this is a compliance issue. It is a legislative compliance issue. And it's even, if you look at what involvement you have, the law speaks of a functional involvement and not the job title. It's not about job titles, it's about who has direct influence about this. And guys, I'm not joking, this is becoming a serious matter. I have a bunch of these cases now at the moment where I've got to prove a lot of things, and we've got to make deals and sit with SARS, and people have got to come up with money and everything else, and we've got to do, volunteer disclosure programs, VDPs, and we've got to go and try and make negotiations with SARS to get to settlement amounts and stuff like that, and it's a massive sword that hangs over your head as a business owner. And you've got to make sure your returns are in and payments are made. Make sure of that. You know, in some cases, I tell my clients, open up a separate little investment account or whatever. Put money away there. As clients pay you, you put money away there. A rule of thumb, put like a 7 or 8 or 10% away, depending on what your company does and what your profit margins are and those kind of things. And forget that bloody money as an investment account. When it comes to paying your taxation and it comes to your VAT, comes to your pension, you've got a little bit of a piggy bank going. But don't look at that piggy bank, because as soon as you look at it and there's money in there, you will spend it. That's the reality, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Out of all my 190 odd clients, there's about 5 or 6 that actually listens. And you know, at the end of the financial year, they actually get to a point where they actually have a nice, decent little amount there and they pay it out. And that covers the bonuses in December. So there's a lot of good things that come out of that. But it takes discipline. And you've got to understand, trust money will sink you. So again, I've got your back, and everything's going to be okay. See you at the next session.